Oh, yes.
Yes.
Onegaishimasu.
Okay, great. We'll just loosen up a little bit. Just feet. Just play a little bit, just shifting the weight. Keep the feet on the ground, keep the toes on the ground. And just play a little bit there. Keep the weight, keep the bands going. And just really pull stuff to one side. Yeah, that. Yeah, a little bit to the front, maybe. Just waiting for the toes. Maybe wait to the back of the heel. Keep the pulse going. Flying shepherd is just coming back to the feet, back into the center of the feet. If you think about the press and back swing, this one just really play with the release in the knees, so play with like the knees low towards the toes. And just playing like with the feet, like rolling through the feet. So like front and back through the feet. So letting the arms just drag front and back. You just take the weight as far as you can onto the toe, and as far as you can onto the heel. Into the balance of the body. And think about the weight of the head going forward and backwards. Just give yourself a little bit more range of motion. Just play with the feet, maybe 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. It can be like square on with the head, or hand connected. You know, just play with like a sway through, and then play with also 1 foot in the ground fully, and then again just going back to the leg rolling through the feet through. You're that kind of filling and emptying the feet. And keep the feeling that the knees still stay through both sides. And instead of something, just change the feet, change the foot forward. And just releasing to the knees now, letting the arms drag. And then maybe play with the pushing of the head, the weight of the head. And then the other one to play with would be really. The other one would be. You're funny.
Hey, look, come here. Come here.
Yeah, the other one that's just play with maybe taking all the way to one leg. And then just play with the moment with the back foot and front foot, just the moment it leaves the ground as well. So just very lightly taking out the ground. Like obviously two focuses still getting the leg in the ground and the weight in that leg. Feel the way that how the joint feels there, and then feel the leg that's leaving the ground as well. And then if you start to think about the hip basically, start to play with maybe the feeling like dragging the hip through. And then maybe you can go to a few things, you can take like a walk. or it could be like a quick motion, or just be like a wave. Step it. And we just play with things like the arm, different positions for the arm, the weight of the head forward, backward. Nice. So looking like excess tension and things like that, just noticing things like maybe when you do that, notice what's happening in the chest. So probably particularly like a thin area, the front of the foot, or notice what's the measure of the toes. So things like clinging with the toes or the shin going into very tension for the feet. Maybe just play with just feeling the length of the arms as much as possible. And then just it might be again just noticing things like what part of the foot I'm kind of the weight is in. Maybe it's like the inside of the foot, or the outside of the ball side of the foot, or the heel. Yeah. Just kind of exploring the articulation there. And obviously in the leg that's kind of light. Yeah, maybe noticing tension in the things like the front of the hip or the glutes. Softening it, maybe just releasing it. But creating space in the joint system, and then again, maybe just allowing the joint to just let the ground pull it slightly down, that traction through the joints. That's yeah. And then just adding the rotation with it. So just keep that going and just adding a little bit of torsion. And just I would start like maybe just the belly button, just feel like you can kind of shift the belly button. In this case, just allowing the head to follow. So if you think about the belly button, maybe the tip of the nose. Yeah, just let it follow. And then doing that same kind of work as well. So like you could play with it if you want, you could play with it neutral again with the feet. And just listen to what's happening in the feet. Or if you want, just keep going with the like stepping or kicking or whatever movement's coming up. And just again, just adding in a bit of torsion, a bit of rotation. Well, a bit of rotation actually. Not even really so far as torsion. Yeah. Right. You might want to shift sometimes, like go with like maybe the belly button leads the motion, and then maybe play with like the back of the body. So it could be like the tailbone's a good point of the body. It can be quite maybe it's essentially and but it feel like maybe feel like from the back, lift from the front, and then maybe to get a feeling of space in between those 3 points and just trying roll the body through that. Yeah, nice and soft, just letting the arms head follow. And just make it as like if you want a few more ideas, you could also set it very wide. If you want, you could start from you can sway the body. You could think about going maybe a little bit lower down to the knees. You could working up the legs a little bit more. You could play with like lunges, squat kind of movements, very simple stuff. And then just checking in on the knees all the time, making sure the knees are free. So particularly if I'm going to like lunge patterns or something, checking in every once in a while with tension feelings, maybe tightness. Yeah. And then going a bit more to the idea of torsion, then would be like I think about like open up the shoulders, open up the arms, and just for the first few, if you think not yet going again like torsion, like in terms of taking 2 directions, go the same way, start to really bring the arms. So it might be things like we do the basic one, which will be like a kind of swing and a kind of percussion. The body might be there. Yeah, it might be really simple, kind of just reaching out, and like pulling, but try and get the feeling in this case will be like the rotation. That's the movement. So maybe like positioning the arm, or like raising the arm up and then letting the rotation go with it. And like stick the arm up and you let the rotation go. And again, you could do that in a static way, make it simple, keep it neutral. With the feet, just explore that. You're looking like traction through the joints. I go like specifically, I go like maybe the shoulder does it, or maybe it's from like the feeling of like the sternum opening up, like the shins, the shoulder blade positioning the shoulders. Grab the elbow, the wrist, fingers, just maybe traction a little bit through the motion. You might start to get whipping motions, wave motions. Depends on the speed, depends on the movement policy as well. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Right. And then we tend to kind of limit to the front, so maybe it's like I just stick in this kind of area, which is where the shoulder's kind of comfortable. Play with upper again, like maybe it's expanding through the back. They're just checking in then the mobility through the shoulder. The back of the range of motion. And also like the top of the range of motion. So we could also think like going to this kind of distance. So you might feel again just kind of checking in on the range of motion. Notice the difference inside, maybe one shoulder a bit freer than the other, maybe. And you've got to try things and kind of stick with the one that feels a bit more free. You could work with that one a while and then maybe it influences the other one to free up, maybe. Or again, just noticing whether it feels different. Yes. Yeah. And then think about maybe like again like phrasing. Think about maybe this movement or the raise. So I'm going to like raises. The quality of this movement and the quality of the release are kind of two different things really in a sense. So you try and keep them together and keep it as one. Single just notice maybe like the feeling of that's different to that. And again it's just going into details and noticing things. And then maybe it's also an issue of timing as well. So maybe think about the time when I could do it. So I could do like this and then the rotation. Or you could think about the raise rotation coming together. And so maybe just play with the timing of the movements as well. So you're doing things like raising patterns. Really just maybe play a little bit with the timing. And maybe it means like taking the movement short, maybe a little bit. So I'm going to go here, but then I'll go there and then switch it. And switch it. Maybe play with it. So the rotation, maybe that movement or the movement down to release the knees. Maybe that just shows at a different time than I would have been doing. Maybe. Yeah. All right. And then left again, if I'm thinking more about talking kind of through the spine, I would think like two directions. So would be like if I go like this thing would be like twisting this arm this way, this arm this way. So it would be like creating torsion through the structure. I think you can quite see that. This sort of would be like creating torsion through the structure this way. Now obviously the first way to look at it would be like taking the two ends, right? Like the top and the bottom of it and twisting it. Well, in that case, see like I would think about the head, see the crown of the head and maybe the sole of the foot. Or even a simpler one would be like the tailbone and the top of the head. And maybe the feeling is like again this one goes this way and the head starts to go the other way. So it would be like maybe come on. Again, you could do that in a very basic way, like feet down, turn one way, look the other. So you think like looking over the shoulder. But just creating a bit of light torsion to the spine then. So basically just think two directions. The easiest way to think about maybe like the belly button goes one way and the head looks the other way. So again, it's maybe things like looking over the shoulder. And then you can make that very simple. Start with a neutral kind of posture. Just playing with. And maybe it just goes back to focusing on the spine. And
And just noticing what's happening with the knees, the feet, what the shoulders are doing. Yeah. And then with this, you might notice the breath starts to become, you might notice, one thing will be like if I'm not really breathing as I'm doing this, you might get a lot of kind of build up, so it might feel very tight in this area, because it feel like the pressure of it's kind of squeezing, maybe. So use that feeling as well, and then maybe you can just play with like breathing in it as well. So one way you could do it is like, if I was to split them, it would be like maybe a breath in deep, and then the rotation or the torsion is going to be the kind of, is maybe going to be an out breath. That's one way to do it. Lots of ways you could do it. But just notice how maybe the breath is working within the motion as well. And if I'm thinking maybe of like creating space through the structure, by opening up space through the joint system, the breath is going to help them maybe just to play with ideas, to play with the pressurization through the breath option, or to play the expansion of the breath in. And maybe it's open up the rib cage, creating more space. And the main thing will be like maybe noticing tight sensations of the body or like restricted. Just trying to open it up maybe a little bit. Yeah. And then we'll just go to the legs anyway, so kind of forget the arms a little bit. But if I go to the legs and playing with that, maybe a similar idea of like a torsion through the leg. If you think about like the hip in the case, maybe the sole of the foot. And different positions will put you in different different feelings. So in this case, maybe it's going like a cross position like that. And yeah, just play with again that kind of torsion movement. And just play with again, maybe it's a sensation like taking the hip and pulling it up maybe, and maybe it's taking the sole of the foot and pulling it down. And if again I'm creating space and not compressing, contracting, then it's going to be like a compression pattern, which is going to be like lengthening the structure. So creating space from the hip through the joint. So again, maybe it's just playing with like maybe these kind of motions. And again, take the two ends of the connection point. The hip, this should be like maybe the top of the hip is a good point, and then the sole of the foot or the heel of the toes. And then just play with like, I'm going to send weight down to the foot. Maybe it elevates the body a little bit, and then play with like a little bit. Some would say like in foundation training, it's used a lot is like a tug of war sensation. It's a nice idea, but the tendency in that is to create like I'm going to do it with like this kind of tug of war goes to then like this. If I go like real tug of war, will be like you weight the body, you have a very strong grip, and then you let the body kind of lean the weight back. So people are very good at tug of war. Don't use the kind of brittle front strength. That's the people that lose. So you think about basically traction through the joint. Again, just letting the weight do most of the work, or letting breath to do the work. Obviously, the down feeling is important. And if you don't particularly feel it, or it's difficult to feel, different positions will just encourage you a little bit more. So if I go like to this feeling, very easy one to kind of create that movement. You could also go to like less spiral work, but it'd be like a hidden pattern, obviously, kind of just settling weight back. And again, even though a subtle, maybe like a very subtle hip hinge, maybe also has a lot of spiral work within it. So like sending a spiral through the joint and letting it just elongate, create space. So actually, again, very simple motions. They maybe don't even look like spiral patterns. They could look like lunges, hinges, that kind of stuff. And the moment I go into them, and just naturally, if the body's allowed to, it will just find those spirals. And so it's the great thing about spiral, you don't need to do anything with them, you just need to let the body kind of sit in, passively to it. And if it's kind of allowed to, the body's just going to naturally kind of create that spiral pattern anyway. Great. And then again, just play with different like geometries of footwork. So maybe it's like going a little bit wider, and then again, just playing with like spiral through. And then the other thing again, play with it would be like again going to the torso, top of the head, and adding in again the torso through there as well. So then you could again go like link those two feelings, top of the head, pelvic, pelvis down to the top, down to the feet, and then obviously the core in the middle. The pelvis is going to be the center of the torsion. Right. And just kind of let the hands do what they're doing. In a sense, we'll kind of go into maybe a bit of work with the hands and the arms. And if they're allowed to, again, they'll just start to maybe find spiral patterns anyway. And maybe they just start to come up from the movement. Yeah, great. And then again, so just maybe like the challenge, it also just increase the healing. Will be like taking more weight to the leg. And again, maybe it's playing with like taking the foot out of the ground. And again, just play with that sense like spiraling way through. Spiraling way through. And again, the more tense I am, the more I'm going to kind of restrict the ability to send this kind of spiral pathway through, or just to block that spiral path. So play also maybe with like, I'm going to tighten the hip or tighten the glute or whatever, and then try and go to the movement. And notice lots of the body gets kind of locked out, the joint system maybe gets locked out. Now there's obviously the challenge in that would be like there's a load going through the body. It needs structure and it needs to support sort of like the weak joint systems. And then again, it's just the amount that I'm not working against the joint system. So things like working against the knee, twisting in the knee or foot. Maybe like again, like clinging in the foot comes up. And again, it's just going to create tension and it's going to restrict the pathway through the ground, through that torsion. Again, maybe you could think about again if you go like taking the two ends. Again, the easy way to do it would be like take the two ends of the structure and like twist it, and then the path goes like out to in, like periphery to center. Think about the opposite way. You can't actually do it in this case, but it would be like taking the center and then the torsion comes from the center, and then it passes through to the periphery. So that seems in bodily terms would be like obviously the floor, the pelvis, the torso. Starts the motion and then it allows the spiral to pass up to the periphery of the body. And the periphery in this case will be up to the sole of the foot and the crown of the head. And then it's just feeling that torsion kind of pass through and kind of rolls through. Again, there's a more change in the pattern, maybe easy this to kind of lose that connection. Okay. Lock it on some level. So simple ones are going to kind of help again. Maybe the simple ones. Challenge them on and kind of go there again, lots of firework, lots of stepping, maybe again like going a little bit deeper with the motion. And then the torsion aspect might really come up. So if I start to really look around the space, this place is over stuff. All the stuff so I can really kind of play with them, like looking up, opening up, looking down, opening up. And you just go again to just playing within that idea, like torsion through the spine, head maybe going one way, body going the other. And then with the torso going the other way. Things like the hip are going to help with this one. So like the ability to kind of close and open the hip. So then maybe if we go into like a little bit more Aikido focus would be like maybe working a bit more in like hand work. So then we'll be like, I'm going to kind of really choose the line and I'm really going to play with exploring hand work. And maybe it's like things like going a little bit wider, like we do the Joe work. And then maybe things like basic like the button, really got this on that. But then just kind of hold them kind of like then just playing with enough patterns. Obviously, I could choose a very strict pattern or very set pattern, like the original Tanto. Things like handing out, rotations. Maybe we go to those a little bit, but just play with them again, keeping the focus on the joint system, the weight down, and then let the movement just expand out from there. And we kind of keep it playful, but just working out the game with them play, so like just playing with hand basically, so different ways to play with hand. You could use whatever pattern you've got on the floor just to kind of play with. Kind of a little bit short, a little bit wide. And then could be narrow, could be wide, could be low, could have the kind of high ceiling and then go low. So just play within hand basically, so like footwork pattern, sending the body one way. And then just trying to keep that spiral pattern going. So it's kind of, again, even a simple movement's going to have that anyway, if it's allowed. to go that way. That kind of spiral pattern is maybe just going to clear anyway. So doesn't need to actually be a spiral footwork pattern or any kind of, you know, it could be a very simple movement like tenkan, Rumi tenkan. Very nice. All right. Let's go to the arm work pattern. Again, let's go like very simple with it. Would be like things like lifting the arm and just holding the position of the arms up. Again, very simple. What we were doing before was like, you know, like raising up and letting it go. Kind of go to that, but just have a maybe this point's a bit more of a kind of folding, and then just play within one position a little bit. Again, notice things like simple ones will be like this pattern, or like a reach out, and then just notice how the joint's kind of being held in the structure. So notice like tension maybe come up in one side, or maybe the joint feels like a little bit out from the center of the body, or it's twisted out, or there's just a lot of tension held. Like in that position, be like maybe the front of the shoulder starts to be very tense, and just notice it. And then maybe also notice maybe the wrist is tight, hands tight, elbows tight, and just kind of go maybe just travel up and down. You do and you go like maybe the reach, like wiggling the things a little bit, softening the wrist, the elbows. And it can be a very simple one that can be like just picking the hand up. In this case, just like feeling the weight of the arm actually. So like the different ways you could work with it. One would be like you mentioned, maybe you're planting the hand on something, like a table or something, and just letting the weight go. In terms of feeling the weight of the arm, it's a good one. Think about like sounds a bit morbid, but like rip off the arm basically. So the feeling of like the arm and holding the arm and the weight of it. And just imagine the kind of weight of that the thing. So it would be like still feel the weight of it, and then feel how it's being kind of held in the structure. And again, different qualities to play with, but one thing would be like maybe just feeling floating the arm out from the body. And then the more the joint system's light, held lightly, maybe just more feeling can pass through it in terms of flow, in terms of. And again, noticing injuries, maybe a lot of injury stuff, pain, what's just like blockage, kind of restriction in the body. And then maybe feel like protection of the body. So just then play with maybe, again, it can be very simple, but play with maybe challenges. So I'd stick to one side just to make it very easy. And yeah, maybe it's just like taking a little bit higher, and then again, just notice if I'm shifting and maybe shoulder blade. The rest of the hand doesn't really need to do anything. So the elbow could also stay closely free as well. But maybe start to just take a little bit of kind of elbow work. And there's obviously anything you could think of in terms of weapon system would be like in this area. You could also think about kind of, sometimes we have these kind of protective movements. I'm going to protect the core of the body, and then maybe put one of these kind of motions. And again, whether the joint's been kind of held and passed through, or whether it's just kind of allowed to kind of function normally in that sense. You know, the constant issue of like structure and how it's held, and whether I need as much structure or I need as much tension. So just play with like maybe it'd be like the least amount of tension for excess tension, as much as possible, like just to kind of play with such movement. And just in the idea to get the weight of the arm actually, and how it's held in the body. It's very simple stuff. Yeah. And then feeling in this case might come across as tension, might come across as like tightness in the body. Just kind of noticing it. Right. And then just go to like both hands doing the same thing. So like kind of choose a movement which will be like maybe reaching out from the body, going to the corners of the room, and go like both to the corners. Or if it's just like a raise up, both kind of raise up. So just try and get the movement kind of even across. So you could send them across both ways as well. but whatever the movement is, just get the sense that it's kind of even across the shoulders, or even in terms of the timing, like a one timing with the hands. Again, maybe it's just noticing things like if I go to a raise, maybe one side's faster than the other, maybe one side's taking the body one way, and then I shoot it, think and neutral, just way away. And maybe it's very basic patterns, just maybe going to swing with it. If you then start to maybe take it to the finger, to the hand and the fingers, just play with, then maybe it's just extending through and out to the fingertips, through the fingertips. Just allowing the movement to reach a little bit more, maybe. And again, keeping the elbows soft with it, as much as possible. And you might start to get whipping motions or wave motions or swinging motions through the joint. Just depends again what you want to play with in a sense, or what you feel like going to. Yeah, very good. And then really simple one would be like working with the feeling between the two hands, and then also within the joint system. Like if I keep it very simple, it would be like just between the two hands. I'm making like a pin in one hand and a pin in the other, and there's something kind of between them. You could do this with a ball or like a band or something, and actually have something that's kind of giving you feedback in terms of the movement. But actually, it's just nice to do it without any kind of prop, and just play with it again. Maybe it's just a very simple movement, and just play with that contact. Think about again them moving together. So notice maybe one hand goes and the other kind of follow. And again, you can think about the periphery of the hands working the center, or you can think about the point between the two hands, and maybe pushing the hands out, closing, pulling them back together. So different things you can explore. You could also explore the hands together, obviously. So one we've done quite a lot recently would be like that one. Like very related to like sword work, obviously, but kind of feeling. And then it would be maybe just expanding that contact out. So maybe it's just opening up the fingertip contact, expanding it out and bringing it back together. Nice way to do this also with the eyes maybe half closed, or the eyes looking the other way. Yes, so you're not actually checking the hands, but feeling the hands in space. So feel like things like proprioception, where the body is in space. Just trying to feel like, especially the fingertip. If I'm kind of working with a fingertip contact or palm contact, trying to feel and actually get a feel for it, know where they are in space. This is that very simple, like in terms of connection with belly button, tip of the nose, hand going forward together. And that would be, then if I'm going to that feel, maybe like with the eyes closed would be the best way. Again, to stop what, not to kind of check the hands, but to just feel them. And then, again, the other one will be just expanding it open. Maybe it's a bit of torsion. And again, like looking over the shoulder and allowing your attention to be drawn, maybe to something else in the room. And to do two things like reach out with the hands, lift one way. And then again, it's going back to maybe again, a little bit of torsion through the spine. Just see where it goes a little bit. See what happens. And again, basically the idea would be like the hands kind of really talking to each other. So there's an interaction between them, and it's equal as well. So it's like a feeling where nothing kind of leading, one following, but just that's one way you could also play with it. Well, start to play with that, but keeping it in a sense be quite neutral between the two. Yeah. Right. Then we'll go to one specific pattern. Maybe we kind of keep it or switch it. But if you think about the rotadori one, so the first one would be like just find your again back in the posture, back in a kind of basic command. keep it quite neutral, so you don't want to be kind of loading this neutral here. And then just play with the hand, very simple one again, will be just a feeling of expanding across the joint system. So if I'm two ways you could do it, obviously lots of ways to do it. You could go into like held tension, like which would be like surface tension, like on the water, it would be like the skin held, muscles held. Or you could think about, yes, maybe expanding down into it. So again, two ways would be like opening the core of the body, expanding to the periphery. And it's the feeling then will be like draining down and opening at the same time. But rather than the sense that I'm kind of on the ground and I'm going to kind of go into the periphery. So just think about, maybe it's just playing within this. Again, notice the breath as you do it. So relatively very relaxed position. The breath isn't, there's no high demand on the breath, but just notice that it might be that I'm just holding the breath and I'm not really breathing and I'm just kind of going with it. So just play maybe with the breath a little bit. An idea with breath will be like you breathe actually through the skin. So that the feeling will be like breathing through the hands, how the hands kind of work, and pass the movement through. Ribcage extension, belly expansion, the throat, all these kind of areas, they start to kind of open and close, all these kind of patterns, features like expansion, contraction. However you want to look at that. And then again, we'll go to very specific one, which will be like Morihiro, so it would be like the first one person holding two hands. Think about the again, expansion in. First one is going to be the again, just drain down and just kind of hold your movements lightly. Weight's going to stay in that, but drop into it this way. Think there's an alignment here, and then just play with the pattern to the back. So you're dropping in, and then you're expanding with the rotation here. You know, kind of hold it lightly. The tendency then will do to form and go into like position, held positions. Which is fine as long as I can kind of play within the joint system as well at the same time. But if you're looking at that, needs to be like a drop down, and just feel the weight drop against to the ground. Feel the center line of the body, and it's connect into that, and then allow the rotation to kind of pass through the body. And again, a little bit kind of focus would be like focus on the spine first, and then let those two kind of open up, like down through the legs, up through the top of the head. And then obviously the handwork involved with it. So if you kind of, you've done it, feels very formal, this will be like there's a very clear spiral in the handwork. Yeah, great. And it may, just to encourage a little bit more spiral play with it, you could see this as like, you've got the two sides of the body, and you've got like the left side, right side, and you drop the right side in, and then you kind of there's a kind of division across the body, and then kind of working this up. It's a good way to kind of move some structure in. Play with this one, which will be like, I'm just going to play with the front arm, the back leg, and just feel that there's a kind of, maybe there's a pathway that goes across through the body, and play with the weight shifting this one down, and then the hand reach out this way. So just think about maybe a cross connection through the body with like left foot, right hand. And then maybe that's easier just to drop the other hand out. So just play with, again, it could be very simple kind of movement with it. Morihiro is, that position is a very good one. So play with, again, it's quite an obvious spiral in that sense. So I would just play with maybe just sending a feeling down in one side of the body and let it pass up through the center, and then obviously kind of express it out the opposite side hand. Yeah, we've got a very simple pattern. This would be like a kind of push. So you could take this end, you could take this straight as a strike, you could take it to coffee work. But just go like a very simple one, which would be like a push with the hand out. Again, you can do this two ways. You could think about one side of the body, right and left, right foot, right hand, and just kind of sending the feeling down to the foot, out through the hand. Then if you want to explore, again, a little bit more encouraged spiral work would be like, maybe it's easier to think about left side foot, right side hand. And just again, maybe it's just a very simple push it out. And going back to the one we did before about kind of noticing how the arm's being held out in the structure, whether it feels like it's out structure, whether it feels like it's off center. And in this case, a very simple one would be like very clear center line, right? Out through the center and connecting down out through the palm of the hand in this case. A very simple push pattern. But if you want obviously a bit of feedback, you could use a wall, or you could play with like a weight in the hand or something like that. Give you a bit more feedback, but again, just work. It's enough in a way just for the body to do it, just the weight of the arms, the movement through the hand. And if you just think maybe it's just about sending an impulse out, and again, equal in the foot of the hand, so the pulse down to the foot and the pulse out of the hand. Try and work with a kind of even feeling, or at least a feeling that there's a connection between the two at the same time. And a very simple timing, we like lend the weight in the foot at the same time as the weight would exit the hand. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And again, that's like the down is just as important as the outreach. It's when those get out of balance, that's when you will get out of balance. Yeah. And to play with it, you might want to do it a bit fast. Don't really go slow. Just explore it a little bit. And then the other one would be like just play with the trajectory of the hand a little bit. So you could go like straight out where it's level with the shoulder. You could go like a rising movement up, which maybe goes more to the heel of the hand. You could also do the push down to the ground or push to the ground. So things like last position of like a really negative, that stuff maybe start sticking up. Or like each up with a grab. Or things like a little bit push nage work. So just start to explore. Keep it kind of simple in terms of a direct. But again, it could go like high, it could go middle, it could go low. And then again, what you could start to do is with that, start to again encourage a little bit more spiral work and allow the arm to maybe just be capped out in a spiral. So you might start to get like hooking movements through the push. You could obviously expand that to a strike, like a fist, and do a straight strike through, do a cross, hook punch. You to expand it like Shomanuchi work, striking, going off. Just play a little bit, see what comes up. Maybe a little. And then again, keep this simple. You could take this to the kitchen, do again a very similar exercise, in like injecting the foot. One way you could go with it, but for this one, just play with like stepping with it. So it would be again, maybe working with handing, maybe going into rotation work. But the simple ones would be like the step through with it. And then just play with the timing of it then. So it's obviously you've got the shift of the weight, traveling one side, and then the shift of the weight here. And then just obviously just different timing points that you could do it. You could think about if I'm kind of trying to be weighting, or if I'm trying to press weight through, one efficient way would be like, maybe it's as the foot lands the hand out, or maybe it's kind of driving through. Again, depends on the quality of the movement, obviously, the function of the movement. It's just a kind of simple push. Think about, and maybe it's just reaching contact and stopping in. Now, of course, you could land weight 50-50. At the end, kind of stabilize the body, or you could just again kind of just let it go with the movement. Let the body just naturally find the ground. But it's just really an issue of timing in a sense. With the walk, with the step, or whatever the movement is, you could also just kind of backwards into the rotation. So maybe it's this one here. And again, it could be down, could be up, could be away. Just again, just play with different things. If you think in terms of Aikido, obviously specifically, things would come up. Obviously, it's just like you start to look at Ikkyo, lineage, relation. Yeah, they're all working these kind of these patterns. So just applying then those ideas out, and obviously striking work the same. And then we'll stick with it. If you've got a Tanto, just grab it. If you've not got one around, it could be anything, that's just kind of yeah, flip top or whatever. And then obviously you could go all the way down through a progression, do the same thing. We've got like 9 minutes or something. So just play would be like a very simple one. Would be like this kind of ski work, obviously slightly different mechanic, obviously, than the movement. So it's not quite the kind of push out, which would be like, maybe you could also take that the same way, would be like a razor. In this one, just play with this kind of motion. So a kind of classic ski pattern in this case would be this kind of arc, which this rising arc through. Yeah, just feel the weight of with the bokken again. Think about like an if I really go like extension of the body, feel that it's really just an extension of the joint system. So just play with them the same way, like if I think about fraction through the joint system, just allow the weight of the Tanto. Just actually increase the feeling. If the joint system's relaxing, if it's allowing that kind of slap through, then the added weight it's going to kind of expand and open up. Obviously the danger is I get pulled out, but allow that to maybe happen a little bit. So the worst thing would be like I go through this and I'm kind of just held through. And then this goes like very robotic, very stiff. So look for something which is very light, fluid, flexible, and then put some bit of structure behind it. But just play with that. And again, things like the elbow, this position, the flexibility in the wrist. Again, notice maybe if the grip's way too strong, it's going to restrict the movement of the wrist. And again, you get very kind of stiff kind of motion here. So it becomes like very tense on the surface. And again, locks out the elbow, maybe goes off the travels to the shoulder. So just notice that. The other thing you could really play with is like very strong grip, or stronger grip as you can get on the Tanto, and just play with whether you're able to still release through the joint system, particularly again wrist, elbow, shoulder. Yeah, then the ability to have a very tight grip, strong grip, secure grip, but be able to maintain flexibility and fluidity through the joint system. Very important, obviously, particularly if you're thinking any function of something, like you need to grab something and move it, or you need to grab something and move it through space. You know, the ability to kind of keep a secure grip, keep the fluidity of the body, keep the natural quality of the body. And then the function of it's just going to be more fluid, obviously. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, good. And then we'll just explore. So we could stick to that, but just play with taking the Tanto blade down, play with across the body now. So would be like a very basic one would be like just a release through and then a change of position. Play a little bit with this again. Trying to encourage flexibility for the joint system. The tendency would be like stick within this area and maybe just in this, and this is way in the kind of shoulders comfort zone. And that's obviously where the power of the strike's going to be. But just maybe play with opening it out a little bit, and maybe it feels like, or maybe actually it is going out of structure with the joint system. But if I'm looking kind of slack and flexibility, maybe I need to kind of go to those areas because they may be positions the body's actually uncomfortable in, and it might be a mobility issue rather than a kind of actually I'm out of structure. So it might feel like out of structure, it might feel like tension. But again, just play with, especially opening and closing the shoulder through the front, either like that movement. Put the focus obviously in the blade, so the blade's going to kind of cut both ways, cut both ways. And again, just the extent that I can get the feeling to the tip of the knife. There's the great thing about knife work, we basically don't treat it like it's a wooden knife, treat it as if it's a blade. Okay. Percussive work doesn't tend to come up with a knife, which right, so it's also a good way to work maybe that's a little bit more quality of a kind of whipping, slashing, slicing kind of quality. And then, yeah, and again, just play. So maybe it's just again the body movement. So you could isolate the arm out and do this. Obviously, the rest of the body's doing something. It's holding. So play now with you should really do it. So let again, if I go back to torsion and I go back to that feeling, maybe it's like circular patterns with it, rotation pattern, and allow again, if I think about the core doing it, allow the movement to be spread out from the core. So a very nice one will be like as if you've got the blade, or you could put the blade in the pants or somewhere, and then play with actually like expanding out from it, and then maybe it's putting it back, put it in the back of the body. You could just, if you don't want to, you could just hold it at the side of the body and have it neutral, and then just think about coming out. It's kind of Star Wars geek, so I think about lightsabers. Which is there, and then in terms of feeling, switching on, opening, expanding the movement, all this kind of stuff. And again, whatever's going to kind of encourage the kind of opening of the body. And there's like opening which spreads the body apart, brings the body apart, and there's an opening which just like the body's naturally opening, flexible. And you just allow just notice the spiral patterns maybe in the body. And again, it's on the kind of allowing it happen rather than I'm going to kind of force the body into spiral. There we go. Nice. Adrian spatula. Salad or spatula. That's such a good one. Yeah, that one. I was playing with that. Squatting motion. That's a good one. Yeah. Wow. Good. Let's just play a little bit with put some more feeling into it. But again, notice then the tension is like the moment of the strike. Maybe the tension comes back in. So then this kind of goes in and this tension. So just play with it, but let the movement kind of complete fully. So. And again, you could use feedback with this. Obviously, if you've got something, you could hit with it. Adrian's got a great one. It's like spectacular, but you could really bam. Lewis has got a flight swapper. That's a really great one. Bam, and you get a really good feedback with it. Good. It's like difficult to work with that with a partner. Everyone's nice, but things you can do to just play with it. And again, maybe it's things like percussion. The last few, maybe it's like a percussive movement, maybe it's a slicing movement, maybe it's like a kind of a whipping motion. And the knife obviously just encourages slashing, stabbing kind of motions, obviously the way it's designed. Kind of key into it. And then on the things you've got, it's going to kind of change maybe the unless you just explore freely, so like maybe it's kind of stabbing motions, slashing motions, thrusting motions, just feel whatever comes out really. Or maybe it's just very basic, like treat it as a wooden thing, and it's just a kind of hit. I'll take the back end of the weapon and just play with like a strike, like a back, like a drumstick or something. Yeah, let's just see what comes up with. And again, really noticing kind of tension in that case, or excess tension would be like this kind of stuff. And it's going to come across obviously sensations like tightness, pulling, or the weight being driven up. I feel like everything's going to tend down to the ground in a sense, whatever you're doing. Nice. Okay, nice. Great. Great. Last minute, just coming back into the center. Go to more of a neutral position. Just going to play around again with the knife, spatula, whatever you've got, or two if you've got them. Just play with, just loosening the joint, a little bit patted around. You can do with iso, diversion. Again, feel what movements come up, what movements you've done, and just maybe make them a bit more lighter. Feel the weight through. Just trying to note again, work the weights even in this case, because I feel the position kind of taken to one side and maybe a little bit more. Just notice it. Try and go for even weighting. And just playing maybe with different ways to pass the knife around. Treat it like a knife or treat it like a stick. That's it, just shaking out the joints, so just shake out the hand, shake out the hand a little bit, and shake it out. You could do with the knife, those you don't need it. Or you do easy without that. And then the other side. Mix the right leg, stick it out, pick out the knee, release the foot. And the other side. And lastly, just shake out the body a little bit, get all the ones. Good. Domo arigato.
Domo, arigato gozaimasu.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Is Lewis there?
He is. He's fly swatting.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna make Michael work all day. And then we drive down to